Matt, I wondered if you could compare what December 3rd was like, season one in Toledo versus now.
Um, Certainly different. I mean, really, even up until last year, you were spending this time with the opportunity to go out and be in young people's homes that you're signing. And as the head football coach, I really enjoyed that. The opportunity to see these young people in their setting and have an opportunity to, yes, they're coming at that point. It's great that it's moved up, but the opportunity to be in their space, seeing them function and, see them around their families, where are they coming from? And I think we've lost that obviously in the new recruiting cycle. And so it's drastically different that way in recruiting. And then let alone, man, you talk about your team, and at that point you're either practicing or getting excited about, getting a bowl game opportunity, and to now you're trying to figure out who's staying and who's going and what does that all look like. So it's a new era, it's a new time, but it's drastically changed for sure.
I was going to ask about that retention and recruiting aspect of it. Has that grown, and how does having one portal maybe change that versus that crazy one, which would be right in the middle of bowl prep?
Yeah, I think that'll be I think number one, I think that'll be interesting. I like one portal window. Is it the right place? Is it not? What are the ramifications of that? I think those things are all going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of this year, just because it is so new. But it's certainly nice that you're not living in it during bowl prep and preparing for a game. And then I think the other part of it is it's nice to have your team and know pretty much what your team's going to look like when you come back here to start school in the winter semester. And I still think building a football team through January on is really critical when you're talking 18 to 22-year-olds. When you're talking professional athletes, that may be different, but when you're talking college athletes that are still growing physically, mentally, and emotionally, I think those are things that you need that time to really build the team the right way.
Hey, Coach, wanted to ask about a couple of these guys. Mason, with his family legacy here, what was that recruitment journey like?
Yeah, I think it was really rewarding for Mason, for Todd, for the entire family. I just, I think anytime, and Mason had been here so many times, and obviously Todd has been back around our football program during, our 10 years here of, just back and involved, which I really always appreciated. And I think the pride that you would have as a father to see your son have the ability, not only as an offensive lineman, and he was a quarterback, see this young man like physically mature into this really special football player, but then to be able to do it at the level where he can compete at this level, and have a chance to go to your alma mater, I think it was really rewarding and really special. And so for his family, for his parents, it was really it was great when he committed. And it's been really awesome to watch, just that journey. He's been a great leader of this recruiting class, and it's been awesome to watch him. And he'll be a great leader on this football team someday. He's got that kind of ability and potential for sure.
And then with Lucas Tenbrock, another guy with a really cool football journey. I mean, big punter. What are you expecting from him?
Yeah, I still feel like for us, Midwest, man, I told Perk in our exit meeting on Monday, I said, boy, we've done it in the rain. You had to do it in, 30-mile-per-hour winds, and, you've had to do it in the snow, and you've done an unbelievable job every step of the way. And, I just think we do special teams in a really unique place in college football, and so to have the right guys that have grown up in those environments and those spaces, I think is really important. And obviously Lucas has certainly done that. So I think he's got great ability. He's got great potential, and he's coming in. Obviously we're losing a great one, and we're going to gain a great one. And so we're really excited about that.
Coach, this class as a whole, how excited are you to bring it into the fold?
Yeah. And I've always said this, I preface I've always loved, I think even as a young coach, I love signing day press conference because everybody gets up there and tells everybody how great they are. And the reality is you won't know for 2 or 3 years. But what I do know is one of the things I'm really excited about this group is, again, 10 years being somewhere, who fits, what you're looking for, and you haven't wavered. And, I think when you look at every one of these young men and you hear their story, I think you see the success they had, their teams, their individual successes. the leadership that's coming in. I think it fits everything that this program's been built on. And so I'm really, really excited about the quality of character of the humans that are coming in, the families. I think it's been a credit to, Hooge and his staff. I mean, our ability to continue to uncover elite football players that come and are looking for the right opportunity at the right place. And that part of it I'm really proud of and really appreciative of.
Edge rusher Elijah Reader is kind of a late evaluation for you guys. How excited are you to kind of hopefully find a diamond in the rough? I'm sure from your perspective.
Yeah, and sometimes we gotta kind of wait to do things every once in a while, because I feel like sometimes when we do things too early, the whole world finds out. So sometimes you got to keep it close to your vest. And I think Elijah's kind of one of those guys. He's got elite traits, size, 6'8" wing. A guy that's got great size, great ability. We brought him in this weekend when we got back from Oklahoma, and he just great mom, great family, great skill set. It's gonna be really fun to see where he's got the ability to go. And again, a credit to our recruiting staff. I mean, the time and effort and energy that we continue to put into high school recruiting. We're always going to keep some scholarships back every year for these purposes. Who shines as seniors? I've always felt like when we've taken those guys, I think a lot of the guys in our program that have had great careers here have been taken because we got to watch their senior year and evaluate them, and they came here and had great careers. So we're really excited about Elijah for sure.
Last one for me, quarterback Kase Evans. What went into you guys pursuing him and then landing him?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you said what is one of the great steals of this class, I got to go down there during our bye week and see the first round of the playoffs, and I think he threw for almost 300 and rushed for almost 200, and it was an unbelievable performance. They won 43-42 and 42-41, and it was just to watch him lead his football team. The way he's got the ability to vertically throw the football down the field is really special. Above average athleticism, his ability to escape the pocket. He hadn't run very much, and then that night they needed him to run, and he's a really good runner. He's got above average athleticism, and again, he's a winner. He took a team and a program to places it hasn't gone, and I think some of the great quarterbacks that we've had have had those similar traits. They had to do it in high school, and they've had the ability to come here and have to do the same thing. So we're really excited about him. Case has got an unbelievable family. What his mom and dad are about. Obviously, he's got a great history. Dad played college football. His grandfather played college football. So he gets what big-time football looks like and what the expectation is. But great high school football coach. Really, we couldn't be more excited about what Case brings to the table, and to be able to get him get in on that journey when we did. We were really fortunate, to be honest.
Rob asked you how things have changed over 15 years, but how have things changed over the last 4 as NIL has kind of grown into itself, and now revenue sharing is established?
Yeah, I think growing, and I think only will continue to grow. I think in football, that transition on the front end for a high school freshman, I think is still evolving. But I think it's only getting more real and more challenging to figure out how do you balance a roster at that point of your career to, the retention part of your career. And so, and challenging here, with, what is the commitment globally to that process, So I think those things are just a unique time, and you do what you can and you try to do it the right way. And I still think the number one priority, which I think why you see a football team that had the ability to lose some games, come back and win their last 3, is because we've never tried to put the individual above the team. We've always tried to put the team first and make sure we're doing right for the team, and then obviously try to do right by every individual. And that's what we'll always try to do. I think that's the most important thing, and that's the only way I really know how to do it.
When it comes to that, do you segment your revenue sharing, and we're going to spend X on incoming freshmen, X on retention, and X on transfer portal players?
Yeah, and I think we keep evolving in that, but I think it started for sure like a little bit with that process, but I still think ultimately you have to, who has earned it, and then work yourself backwards, and I think those are things that are really important, and you try to do right by every player that's going to be on your roster. And you hope that we continue to try to do right for our players here as a university. I think that's a global when you're dealing with football and we see what's going on right now in college football is everybody's upping the ante, right? It's not just normal anymore. It's real, and you have to be willing to do right by those players. And I think that's the one thing I hope we'll continue to do.
In terms of upping the ante, I think the above the cap NIL is kind of the next frontier we're going to be talking about. What are your thoughts on what's happening with that and where Iowa State is in regards to that?
Yeah. I think those are great questions. I think that, again, I sometimes get so stuck in the weeds, to be honest with you, on football and our culture that it's hard for me to step out and really look at that. But I think I've had to over the course of the last 6 to 8 months. And, I think those are things that in some way, shape, or form, above the cap NIL has always existed, right? It's existed forever, and it'll always exist. What can you do to benefit the young men that deserve the right to use and earned successful opportunities? I think that's still the thing that I certainly agree with. And how can you help young people maximize that when it's earned? I think those things are things that I think, that's where I think that maybe is coming into play and will certainly come into play in some real situations. How are we doing that? I think we're still trying to navigate that. I think those are great conversations for Jamie, and those are great conversations for our leadership here. But I think from our end of it, all we can do is what we have and try to do it the right way by every young man that comes into our program and try to really press forward, because what we feel like we have is really special here, and we want to continue to grow forward as the world around us grows forward.
Hometown kid Jeffery Roberts staying home. How important is it to keep a guy like that in the city, and what does he bring to the table?
Well, I think it was really big for us. Jeffrey, it's been a long journey. Last year, maybe I think our second bye week, maybe our first bye week, we were at practice, and I got to go over and watch practice at Ames. And man, I left there and I was like, this guy honestly reminds me of Jalen Knoll. Had some of very similar traits of what Jalen was about: his speed, his burst, his acceleration. I think you saw that maybe in the state championship game, right? And, I think Jeffrey is a really special human that has worked really hard to, I think, grow into a great football player. He's certainly been great in the track as well. And then I think, when he decided to go to Dowling, in tough situation at Ames, they didn't have a football coach for a while. He chooses to go over to Dowling Catholic, and I think we all know what kind of football coach, obviously, Coach Wilson is, and I think you just saw him just keep getting better and better. So, won a state championship. I think he's got a chance to finish, at Dowling with a great degree, and, we're really excited about what he's about, who he is, what he stands for, and I think anytime, and we've talked about this, anytime you can get a young man from this state to stay home, they want to be a Cyclone and be a part of this program, we're really grateful for that, and Jeffrey's no different.
And then 5 of the top 10 from the state of Nebraska. What led to success in that state, and what did you see out of there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I said this when we got the job here, a 6-hour radius is going to be our number one priority, and it is our number one priority. We try to do as great of a job as we possibly can, to get the right players, the right young men, and, we thought it was a tremendous year over in the state of Nebraska, and obviously, we've tried to get guys that understand the value of what it means to play at Iowa State. And I think when you put a 6 hours around our doorstep, I think young men understand who we are, what our program's about now, and trying to find the right guys that fit us. And we feel like that. I mean, those young men that we got coming, I think are some of the real special gems of this class. And I think we're really excited. A couple state champions. Kean played in the state championship game last week, and man, guys that are competitive winners. And so we're super excited about that. And and then you go up to Minnesota, you get the Minnesota Player of the Year, and that's obviously the last guy worked out really well. That came with that same kind of mentality, and I think Caleb is no different. I got to go watch him on a bye week, and I saw this poor guy rush the ball. It's kind of like probably what you guys say with us with some of our guys. Man, he had to rush it 40 times in the game, and it was like, holy smokes, how many more hits can this guy take? But just tough, physical, and he's going to fit right in. So we're really excited about that as well.
Another Eskilson bro. How much different was this recruitment from the first one?
Yeah. Well, Zach is, I don't know. I maybe he's tougher than Brett. You know what I mean? It'll be fun to see. I like when we have brothers because I like to stir the pot, every once in a while. So it'll be great to have these guys here. I can't be more grateful for their family, to be honest with you. I think the trust, Brett's recruiting was different because he was committed to Northwestern. And we really, that kind of happened on the flip side of it. We kind of happened bang, bang on, when some of the things that happened in Northwestern, Brett flipped to us late. So, we really got a chance to meet that entire family. And, again, an Iowa State family, obviously his mom, being a student athlete here and, huge Cyclone fans, and to be able to have Brett here and now to have his brother here, it's awesome. And they had a great year. And, much like Brett, had an unbelievable high school career. I think he's got the same qualities and traits. He's tough. He's trusted. Elite work ethic, has had a great track career as well. So it'll be great to have him a part of this program for sure.
Want to go back to some of the finances that go with building a class and a roster. Now, Brent Bloom obviously announced his departure from the athletic department this week. What effect, if any, will that have on your program?
Yeah, great question. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know if I knew that until Hooge maybe said something to me yesterday, and then obviously wasn't even thinking about it until you asked that question. I will just say this about what Brent has done for us. I mean, there was a point in time where Derek, Ryan Harklaw, Brent, with what we were able to do with the collective when there really wasn't anything going on here. Those guys saved us, man, and gave us at least a chance to be competitive in a environment that was like accelerating around us. And so what him and his wife have done for us, their loyalty to our program, trying to help any way they could, was nothing short of exceptional, and I'm really grateful for everything he did for myself, our program, giving us a chance to survive when there wasn't a whole lot of people trying to help us survive at that point, and he certainly did. And again, Ryan Harklaw, some of our former players, who's people trying to just kind of pave a pathway forward. So we'll miss him, and he's meant a lot to all of us, so we're really grateful for him.